Well, earlier this year, I sold everything I owned, bought a one-way ticket to Southeast Asia to pursue the dream of being a digital nomad. And now it is the start of 2026, and I have officially decided that it is time to hang up the digital nomad cleats. And in this video, I'm going to talk about everything as to why I made this decision and why I actually think that if you are thinking about doing it, you should take a moment of pause and really think about that decision before you go for it, because there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that you may not realize. So if that is something interesting to you, stick around. We'll talk about it in the video. Thanks a bunch for being here, and let's get into it. So earlier this year, like I said, sold everything that I owned and bought a one-way ticket to Southeast Asia to pursue this dream that I'd always have of being a digital nomad, traveling the world, seeing Southeast Asia and other parts of the world. And I thought it was going to be this really crazy, fun experience, and everything would be, all green lights, and everything would be working in my favor. And while it was a really, really cool experience, I very quickly came to a lot of harsh realizations as I got into it, which led me to the decision to stop being one this year. I think one of the biggest things for me that led to this determination is the fact that it's really hard to be very productive when you are bouncing around places. And with where I'm at in my life and the goals that I have for myself, which is growing a business online and growing a SaaS product and doing all of these things, much of my audience, much of my customers and the people that I'm trying to target are located in the US, and the time zones have made it really difficult for me. And I think the other big one for me is I feel so detached from all my friends and family in the US. And while that may not be a huge deal to others, that is something to me. And that makes it tough on a week to week and a month to month basis because you're so detached from your home. One of the things also that I think a lot of people have this false perception of is that this digital nomad traveling across Southeast Asia is going to be crazy cheaper than the US. And I hate to break it to people, but it's not. It's not that much cheaper. Sure, I think if you are single in your early 20s and don't mind living in some pretty shitty places, then you can make it cheap. But I would say for anybody that is in the, late 20s, early 30s, doing the digital nomad thing and doesn't want to live in a really crappy place, like things aren't that cheap. And I probably spent just as much traveling Asia as I did in my daily life in Arizona, which is surprising. Obviously, I think I was paying a little bit more because there was two of us, me and my wife, but it's not as much cheaper as you think, except for maybe if you do something like Vietnam. But Bali has gotten so expensive that, even your long-term rental, if you find a lease, is, on par with a lot of the apartments you pay in the US. And then a lot of the things that you don't account for are like visa extensions. And if you're moving around the different parts of Asia, you have extra flights to pay for, you have baggage fees, you have new visa immigration things, you have Uber costs, you have Grab costs. There's a lot of little micro things that add up that actually make it not that much cheaper than a lot of the living that you do in America. And so that was another big piece, is like, hey, a whole part of us was, let's move and save some money and be able to, set ourselves up for success. But in reality, we ended up spending the same amount of money, and it was harder for us to actually keep in touch and grow our businesses from being all the way across the world. So those are kind of the first two things. I think number three for me is, because of the type of business that my wife is trying to grow, doing it across Southeast Asia was really challenging because the access to all the kitchen amenities and the ingredients and the food things that she needed were not as easily available. She makes cooking videos, and so, we want to make her set up for success just as much as myself. And then another thing is just the consistent decision fatigue. And this is one that's probably not talked about that much, but is probably the biggest one, and that has really just kind of exhausted me from this digital nomad lifestyle, which is when you are somewhere when you are traveling and every single day you have to make some sort of micro decision, whether that is, what am I going to do today? Are we going to eat? Where are we going to get coffee? Are we doing an adventure? What should we do in the afternoon? When's our flights? What's the baggage rules? What's the visa immigration things? And all those little micro decisions take up time. And it doesn't seem like a lot, but for us, it was like, two hours a day sometimes of just like consistently planning or doing things or moving or doing things like that. And that takes up time that you would normally be working on your business for. And it just taxes you mentally, whether you realize it or not. After months and months and months of doing that, it just catches up with you after a while. I mean, towards the end of our travel, we were just ended up sitting in our hotel room or Airbnb a lot because we were just like, we just don't care if we see anything else anymore. And it's just something that we didn't expect going into that. And that played another big factor. Part of this adventure was to see, hey, we want to see the world and be a digital nomad and do our business and grow it and be effective and be in that routine. And traveling and also trying to grow a business just do not work hand in hand. Like, you need to be bored. You need less decision fatigue. You need to be in a routine to really be able to be effective and lock in and do those things. And after a lot of deliberation, we decided that like moving back home to somewhere that we know, moving back into a rental house that we had rented out, that going back to normal life actually ended up giving us the best road for success. I think the biggest thing that traveling for that long and being a digital nomad taught us was that the happiness does not come from this consistent finding new things, doing new things, always having to have this new stimulus, but rather it comes from being around the people you love and working on something that matters to you. The stuff I had the most fun doing was obviously being in somewhere that I enjoy being in, but at the same time, it was working on something meaningful to me over and over and over and getting in a routine and filming YouTube videos and getting to work on a digital product and feeling like everything that I was putting in daily was going towards my own dream. And that's what gave me fulfillment. The journey, the process, all of that stuff. And we thought that just because we're in another country doesn't mean that we are going to have that sense of fulfillment unless we do it. And so I think a lot of those things played factor into why we made the decision that in 2026, digital nomading is no longer going to be a thing for us. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks a bunch. It's kind of my last thought here is, if you have considered being a digital nomad, it's always kind of been the itch that you want to scratch. You want to experience it. You've, kind of tested the waters, what it's like to be remote, and you feel like you want to go for it. I think take one extra moment of pause and think, what is your biggest goal in this? Do you want to travel and see the world, or are you trying to grow a business? Because they're kind of two contradictory things. Building a business and traveling the world at the same time is really, really hard. So I think you need to figure out which one you want to prioritize. If you want to go do the digital nomad thing, then go do the digital nomad thing, but put everything else kind of on coast mode. And if you want to grow a business, find somewhere that you don't have to make a bunch of decisions. Don't go somewhere new. Unless you feel like you've hit the absolute peak of where you're at, stay in somewhere that's a little bit bored, push yourself out of your comfort zone, meet new people, and I guarantee there's things in your city and places that you have not even remotely explored. And I think it took me going and experiencing and traveling the world to realize, like, you can still have that success in the town you're in now if you want it bad enough. All that to be said, I do think it's a little overhyped, but that's my 2 cents. This video is getting kind of long. If you made it to the end of the video, I appreciate you being here. We're going to get back to some more normal content, some design stuff, some lifestyle stuff very soon. But thank you a bunch for being here. More cool updates coming soon. Catch you in the next one. Peace.